Hello everyone, we are back again. My name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today, and we are bringing you the latest and greatest from the VR, AR, and XR industries. Today we have on two amazing guests we just had a chance to listen to today. We have Freyja Sewell. She is a multidisciplinary designer for XR. And also we have on Amelia Kallman. She is a Futurist speaker and the host of the XR Star. So welcome aboard, and it's a pleasure to speak to you today.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, brilliant. We're going to kick this off. We're going to start with the first thing. So Freyja, you had a very, very good talk to like an audience of people today, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your work. So could you tell us and go into a few more details about your work and I guess the central themes behind your designs?
So there are, I would say, two central themes in my work: science fiction and biophilia. And then I'm human, so it's kind of three. My work is consistently about bringing balance between human nature and technology. Kind of feels like, I think many of us might feel that there are some disbalances right now, and we need to bring things back into a more balanced state. I don't believe in perfect anything, but a more balanced state. I do a lot of biophilic design consultancy and thinking, and that's really specifically looking at not just sort of nature as a pretty thing that's out there, but the systems underneath it, how it interacts with us, how it interacts with our DNA, and how we can make design that utilizes all that incredible research.
Brilliant. Yeah, and Amelia, I was going to ask you a quick question as well. How are things going with the XR Star?
Oh,
I know you've been at quite a few events these past few months.
Yeah, no, very good. Thank you. Yes. I have a new podcast coming out next week that's going to be all about holograms. And then obviously we talk a lot about generative AI because that's basically the biggest thing that anybody wants to talk about these days. So everything's going good there. And I was so proud of Freyja's talk today at the Cyberpunk event that we did, which was really around how we can bring women and other non-patriarchal groups into the conversation around how we design the metaverse and what it is and what it means. And I'm a big advocate for inclusivity in this respect. And I am just blown away by what Freyja has to say about it. And she's opened my eyes to some things. And I really hope that people were inspired and went away empowered to continue these conversations within their own communities.
Right. Yeah, and it's great that we have these kind of discussions, to raise these types of new questions up. One of the things I love to explore with, I guess, the XR industry is the themes of ethics, of different kinds of philosophies, different ways to perceive it, because this is a kind of perception that we're bringing to the rest of the world. And also some very good questions as to how we can include everyone in it as well. So yeah, hats off to you both. We're going to go ahead and start with the first main topic. So we talk about cyberpunk, which is one of the central themes of your conversation for today. So what does it represent to you? And why do you believe that it has adversely affected the conceptualization of Web3 and the metaverse?
So even though the title of our talk was Cyberpunk, I actually kind of love Cyberpunk. I love Ghost in the Shell. I love Akira. No one is denying that these are provocative, incredible, imaginative visions when they first came out. What I mean by that is that oh my God, I'm just so bored. It's really that simple. I am so bored of cyberpunk. We've been doing it for ages. It's overtaking other things that I love, like Star Trek, and I'm just not having it anymore. Like, I'm just thinking that we as a species have so much creativity that is untapped, so much creativity that hasn't yet gone into the mechanism. And when it does, we can definitely move past cyberpunk. Anyone who has read the material understands that cyberpunk is not a world that we want to live in. It's a dystopic future defined by inequality, and it's not somewhere that we want to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and thinking about what, we've been doing these days, even with, the technology that we have to date, it's basically we have a lot of things in our world where they do create disparity and inequality. And with the advent of Chat GPT-4, we're going to see quite a bit more of that down the road. As AI becomes more and more intelligent, more and more jobs will be displaced. So, I think that it is good that we kind of show the human side of it, or at least we show how these technologies can work in our favor. And have you seen any specific examples that you know of to date?
Of what? Sorry.
Have you seen any examples of technologies that are working in favor of humanity rather than just against it, or creating more inequality?
I think that we rightfully focus, just with the internet, we rightly focus on the damage being done because it has been real, and we're beginning to sort of wake up to the hangover of the damage that's being done to young people and the systems themselves. But I also think the fact that we can have conversations like this is the internet. The fact that someone, in the far-flung corner of the world can put their creativity online and have it be picked up by someone else who's interested in it, that is a new, incredible thing. The gatekeepers that we used to have of editors, of the gallery owners, they have been disrupted, and we focus on the negative sides of the internet wisely, but those are all happening all the time. I really believe that technology, particularly when it moves towards communication, when it is about really connecting more people up to have useful conversations with a reality, there's not just all connection, but connection that has a context and that can be positive. That's technology. So absolutely, it's good for us as well as bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Amelia, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I think there was a couple things that really I found provocative when we first started having this conversation between Freyja and myself. And one was that I hadn't realized how I had sort of unconditionally accepted this idea that cyberpunk sci-fi dystopian-esque imagery was part of the metaverse and part of our future. I never kind of questioned it. And that I find now shocking. And I realized that, there haven't really been a lot of offerings of alternatives. And that's why I'm so pleased to kind of help promote alternative thinking and visions in this area. And then also, secondly, I also realized that while intellectually I completely understand and think that there's huge opportunities in this space, huge potential, and it's happening, whether we want it to or not. But on a personal level, I felt a bit of a disconnect with the metaverse in that, I guess I've realized in these discussions that part of that is probably because I don't feel represented yet in these spaces. And I want to participate, but I want to also demand that when I do, that the places that I go into feel safe and comfortable and enhance my life and are even, joyous or optimistic. And I really am on board for hopefully helping to promote and create those kind of environments and also that kind of thinking. And I think we need that kind of thinking if we're going to bring this next generation of girls into technology where they are so needed, So I'm hoping that that today's discussion sort of open people's minds to new ways of thinking, and that we will be able to start to approach design in a new way.
Brilliant. Great observations. And thanks for sharing those. Yeah, I wanted to ask you maybe a little bit about this. So we talk about biophilia, the love of biology, the love of the natural world and natural phenomenon. So we are seeing some movements towards biophilia in the metaverse. And I think that this kind of stems from the classical romantic sense or approach to Web3 design. Now, for you, what are the benefits of using biophilic designs for the consumer and maybe even businesses or enterprises that are using metaverse platforms?
So for me, biophilic design is a toolbox to help us create spaces which, no matter your race, age, or gender, if you identify as human, biophilic design is sort of encoded into your DNA. So it's kind of this amazing resource for us to be able to reference and make spaces that are more welcoming. And it's not just about putting plants everywhere. There's kind of a skin deep biophilia where we have brands and people, you know, creating things that look natural. And that's great because I think it's all flowing towards it, but we can't stop there. You know, if it looks biophilic, but it's still being created in a destructive way with no consideration to the fact that it's destroying the nature, which it says is good for people, that's not biophilic design, in my opinion. Biophilic design is design that works with the natural systems. And the difference between where we are now and where we were in previous times when sort of nature's come back into things, I think that's a really good observation, the fact that we're seeing that again, is that this time around, we have a much deeper understanding of what is happening in our brains and bodies and of the whole kind of system. You know, we wouldn't understand climate change if we didn't have the technology to look at the data and see what was happening. So this is a different point that we're at now, where we have nature still out there. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it needs to be protected. And we have an understanding of how we can use it to make spaces that really are inviting and welcoming. And there's a whole kit of tools like soft fascination, you know, symmetry, lack of symmetry, different materials. There's so many tools that we could be looking and referencing rather than just recreating Western architecture, which is not inviting to everyone because not everyone's Western.
Right, right. Yeah, Amelia, any thoughts on that?
What she said. I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
I also would make the point that somebody else made in the discussion is that we aren't confined in these spaces. So, you know, we're only limited by our own imagination and our own creativity. And I feel like that's a great challenge to have. You know, how far can we take this outside of the box, you know? And for me, I also think that we have an opportunity with the metaverse and how we create it to be something that could create something that could right generations of wrongs, that could be a tool for empowerment rather than subjugation. You know, we have an opportunity to do something different, and it would be a shame not to.
Preach.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, when I thought of biophilia and some of the designs that you were showing at the presentation, it reminded me of some of the things that I've seen from Bjork, which is one of my favorite artists. And she would create some of the most unusual different designs, but a lot of them took their inspiration from nature. Yeah. And I think that also plays back into the Icelandic culture that she had there. So it was it's really interesting to see kind of a return to that kind of a mix between the old and the new. You know, the mother and the father, I guess, the technology and the, you know, the natural designs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, really cool. Another question that we've got on here. Now we talk about some of the origins of the metaverse dystopia. So there has been a lot revolving around, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of the different other larger corporations and their implications for the metaverse. And we talk about the fear that comes around this concept. What do you think generates this fear? And how do you think that Web3 and metaverse enthusiasts can kind of dispel this so that people can maybe adopt the metaverse a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, of course, as with anything, there are lots of different factors that are coming in to create this distrust or kind of a space that is not really appealing to everyone. There's many factors, including late stage capitalism and extreme neoliberalism. But on sort of today's subject, I definitely think a big factor is the fact that it's being created in a visual style, which people either consciously or unconsciously kind of know. They've seen Blade Runner. We've seen cyberpunk movies, and we know that it's exciting as it is. It's not an appealing place. So I think the fact that that visual language is there is really a barrier to people feeling invited and excited. And I also think that, you know, it's Einstein said it's madness to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So I think if we really want to see the metaverse become something new, something different, we need to structure the company differently from the beginning. And I think that when that happens, we'll be able to create a space that is so much more exciting and inviting to more people. But we can't expect the same mechanisms to suddenly magically change and create something different. I think we need to reevaluate the base level of how these things are constructed.
And I would add,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think, you know, we spend so much time talking about the technology side of things that actually what this conversation really makes me think is that we need to go right back to the human design and human experience. And I think one of the reasons there's a bit of a backlash is because historically it's sort of seen as an escape from reality, and a reality that is not supporting us as humans anymore. And I think there is a lovely idea and a challenge that we could make these spaces that actually in harmony with our physical worlds and our environments, and maybe even enhance our lives and the physical environment as well. How can we bring those two things together? Which is why I love that's at kind of the core of what Freyja is speaking about.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, when people create these spaces, they're a reflection of, you know, their individual selves, their creativity, their mind, and what they choose to represent the world with. I call that the kind of the Black Mirror effect, you know, both in the classical sense of like John Dee's apparatus, but also in the TV show, where we have a phone, where we have something, and it's essentially a reflection of who we are. It's staring right back at us. It's showing us who we are as a person. So did you have any other thoughts or opinions or ideas about this? Like maybe the future of the metaverse, or how that will reflect, you know, humanity's, you know, perception of itself as the technology progresses?
Yeah. I mean, it's so true that we are currently, you know, what we're creating is very much reflective of what we are thinking and seeing, and a lot of it isn't pleasant. So I think, as kind of Amelia has been with sort of bouncing back, it isn't just about maybe focusing on making better technology, but on creating different emotional support systems or different ways of thinking. And that's happening already. You know, different upcoming generations think differently about gender, and we're kind of, I think we're sort of seeing a big, you know, species-wide consciousness shift. It's like difficult to place, and it's not something that is a binary on-off situation. It's beginning to emerge. And once, you know, we know that creators are what make the metaverse right now, you know, people who go in and make their own worlds, make their own levels. And so I really think that that is, of course, something that needs to continue. But so many of the building blocks that people are offered are often cyberpunk building blocks. You know, I go into Roblox and I made a world, and it was really hard to make it not blocky and cyberpunk, but you can, you know, I managed to find ways to make it sort of soft, and I put some textures in there. So I don't think we're offering people a completely neutral palette from which to actually explore their true potential of creativity. I think there's so much more human creativity right now that's like waiting to emerge when we actually give people, first of all, the spiritual and emotional support in the real world, to allow them to feel they have agency and to explore their imaginations. Yeah, it's taken me years of support, of education, to be who I am now, and to understand kind of that I do have this freedom of creativity, and not everyone has access to that, and that's what needs to change. Creativity needs to be given to people at a young age, and these are things that need to change.
Definitely, yeah. And
it's interesting.
Go ahead, Amelia.
As Freyja was just talking, it made me consider, so I haven't thought this one through, but bear with me, is that what I think we're finding out now is, you know, Web 2, our social media, our email, you know, all this kind of stuff, we're actually feeling on a biological and mental level that it's not necessarily healthy for us. You know, this idea of endless scrolls, endless emails, this idea that we're never complete. We've never finished going through our emails. We've never finished going through social media, you know, all this scroll. Our brains really don't like it. And that manifests in our body as anxiety. So that's not sustainable, I don't think. And I think that we have an opportunity with Web3 and immersive technologies to maybe be able to flip that on its head and give people back their agency when it comes to these technologies, so that we can actually leverage it for people to feel safe and to feel secure and to feel loved and to feel comforted. I think that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent observations again. And yeah, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Post-conversation and with this conversation as well. And I guess for our audiences, once again, my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today. We've been speaking to Freyja Sewell and also Amelia Kallman. And if you'd like to follow more conversations like this, please join us at the XR News hashtag. And you can do so at our Twitter and LinkedIn profiles. So once again, thanks for joining this conversation. Had a great time. And until next go round. Bye now.